Alrighty, so let's get started. No more fucking around. All right.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back to 2K Way Podcast. I am Payton. This is my sister Paige, and we talk about murder in the macabre. In this episode, we have a very special guest with us today, my friend Adela.
Hello.
You can say hi.
I did.
You just waved. It's a podcast.
For those of you that can't see her.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we have been doing a lot. Do we have any business?
I don't think so. Just thank you to everybody who's continuing to listen to us. And
I know.
It's crazy.
We are slowly trickling into a few more countries. Hello, Russia. Hello, Australia.
Yeah.
And hello, Brazil.
Yay.
As well. So we're trickling into a few more places, and can't wait to be in. Yeah, tell your friends. Share us. I think that's the only bit of business that we had, and I'm probably going to end up making a Patreon soon, just to give a little support to us to keep this going.
Because we would love to keep this going and to upgrade some of our stuff a little bit better.
Oh yeah,
it'd help us a lot. So if anybody would, be interested, if you want to let us know who would be interested in that type of stuff, so
yes,
we could actually do it. And
not to mention, like with Patreon, I think they actually like do like merch and whatnot too. So that would be pretty sick.
Doing that.
Oh yeah, because we got some good stuff coming in December.
Oh yeah,
I'm really excited about. But I think that's all the business that we really had to get to. So today it's a Payton week, and I decided to start us off because last week we did Lizzie Borden, and now this week I decided to do it. I decided it was time for one of the big guys, and I thought a good start would be this particular case. So,
and we're sorry, Adela.
Oh no.
We're not, though. It's okay.
It's all right. So, ladies, have you ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I actually haven't.
I haven't either. Have you seen Psycho?
People listening are going to be like, what? Why?
Have you seen Psycho?
You guys are going to be canceled after this.
Right. And they're like, who are these assholes? Have you seen Psycho?
No.
No.
Oh, I hate saying it, but no, I have not.
I haven't either.
I've seen that one famous scene, but that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
We've all seen that scene. That's all that really matters. But one that I know that Paige at least has seen. You seen Silence of the Lambs?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Have you seen Silence of the Lambs, Adela? Here, I'm offended that you haven't.
I'm a big fat pussy dude. No.
That was my first introduction to what's his name? Oh, yeah. Payton, help me.
I'm trying. Anthony Hopkins.
Shit. Yes.
I was thinking like maybe if I keep nodding my head, it'll come to me. Don't remember.
No, that was my first introduction to Anthony Hopkins. So and he's wonderful. Amazing in anything he does. But that movie was like spot on.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we are talking about today the man who inspired all three of these films. We're talking about Ed Gein.
Ooh, ooh.
Pause for silence. Hold on to your tits, ladies. It's going to be a good one. So, he has a couple of nicknames. Butcher of Plainfield. I honestly think that's a pretty sick nickname.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what he did was sick, but I think the nickname is kind of sick. He also is called the Plainfield Ghoul, which is not a solid, but let's get into it. So, Edward Theodore Gein was born August 27th, 1906 in La Crosse County in Wisconsin.
Wow, 1906?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't I think that it was not that long ago? Like, I'm thinking like, not like recently. I'm thinking like 60s, 70s.
Well, the thing is, I mean, he was caught in 58. So maybe that's what you're thinking of?
Okay, maybe that's why I was thinking. I didn't think he was like that old, though, for some reason.
Well, he's dead now, but...
Well, yeah.
Okay, so his parents were George Philip Gein, and his mother's name is Augusta Wilhelmine Gein. I'm not exactly 100% sure how to pronounce her middle name. And he did have an older brother named Henry George Gein. So Ed's father was an alcoholic, and he couldn't keep a job, like, to save his life. Augusta, his mother, hated him. Hated his dad or hated? Hated his dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she kind of hated him. Which, I mean, if you're an alcoholic, they can't hang on to a job, then I guess I kind of understand. But through the years, he worked at various times as like a carpenter, a tanner, insurance salesman, all that good stuff. At one point, Ed's father, George, owned a grocery store, which he sold because Augusta no longer wanted to live in La Crosse because she explained it as a, she thought it was like a Sodom and Gomorrah kind of place, which it's not, obviously. She was ridiculously religious, like to the point of like fanatically religious. So La Crosse wasn't good enough anymore, so they sold the grocery store and they ended up buying a 155-acre farm in Plainsfield, Wisconsin, and that became the family's permanent residence.
All right.
Which, yeah, I was like, damn, that's a big farm.
Huge.
Yeah. The kind of isolation that the farm brought, I think Augusta actually really liked, because she would turn away outsiders who she thought would like taint or influence her children. Yeah.
Because isolation for young children
is really good.
With an alcoholic father and a highly religious mother is a very good combination.
Right. So, therefore, the only things that Ed really did, I think Ed, we'll get to it. The only things that they really did was go to school and then do chores on the farm. Like she wouldn't even homeschool them? No, they went to school, but that's all they did.
Do anything.
So like when they left the farm, it was to go to school, and when they were done with school, they went straight home. Yeah. Oh. So not good.
No.
So again, as I said, Augusta was fanatically religious. She was technically a Lutheran, but at some point when you cross over to the fanatic side, it really doesn't matter. So
right.
They had church service in their homes. Every single afternoon, Augusta would read to them from the Bible, usually selecting verses from like the Old Testament and the Book of Revelation, which there's some gnarly shit in those.
So she was just scaring her kids.
Kind of. So all she talked about was, from these two books, was death, murder, and divine retribution.
There's a lot of other good stuff in the Bible to teach.
Yes, there are plenty of wonderful little stories, and she's choosing the really gnarly ones.
The scary ones.
Yes. Yep. That was what she liked, I guess. I don't know. So Ed kind of like basically worshipped her. Their relationship is weird. Like I said, Psycho, the Bates Motel was based off of Ed Gein, because that relationship between him and his mother, or his view of his mother, not normal. So she preached about the immorality of the world, the evil of drinking, and the belief that all women, except her, of course, were naturally promiscuous and instruments of the devil. Quotes.
Oh my. So a really great recipe.
Yes. And honestly, when I read that, the first thing I thought of was Waterboy. Because her mom tells him women are the devil. I even made a note in my notes that said instruments of the devil, period, like the mom and Waterboy.
Oh boy.
Continuing. So classmates and teachers remember him being shy and having like kind of strange mannerisms.
Because of his lifestyle.
Right. He was just kind of a little odd kid, which with his upbringing, you would expect that.
Understandable.
And I think if he got a little bit older and got that social stimulation from other people, I think he may have led a much more normal life. I don't know. It's all speculation now. That's just my but one of the strange mannerisms that they talked about was he would like laugh to himself. Like he's telling himself little jokes in his head and he's like I don't know.
That's a little creepy.
Yes.
I hate saying it though. If I think of something funny, I just randomly start laughing though too.
I know, I do the same thing. So I'm like, ooh. Hey, you know what? I'm not a child anymore though. I'm just
That's
a little
very true.
Yeah. I'm just a little weird adult.
I'm just a messed up adult.
Right. Augusta would punish Ed for making friends.
Oh my gosh.
What?
You know, like you do.
Yeah. And even though he was really like greatly lacking in social development, he actually didn't do too bad in school. I think his IQ was somewhere like it was average. I don't know the exact number, but he had like an average IQ. He didn't do terrible in school. He was really good with reading and stuff like that. But he did drop out when he was 14, which is like they said he was in 7th grade.
Oh.
Yeah, which sounds old for 7th grade.
Yeah, but if you think about it though, I mean, he was born in 1906, so they did school very different.
True.
Back then.
True, which I mean, like him dropping out in 7th grade isn't all that unusual for the time.
I guess technically not, because a lot of the younger boys sometimes would drop out to help with the family.
So Ed dropped out pretty early, and he and his brother, I think his brother was like 5 years older than him, they continued living on the farm. So they were kind of perpetual bachelors.
Understandable.
And right.
Women were the devil.
Right.
Yeah.
So on April 1st, 1940, at the time, Ed was 34. George, his father, died of heart failure at age 66 from being an alcoholic.
Sure.
So after that, Henry and Ed started doing like odd jobs around the town to help cover their living expenses. And, you know, they were both supporting their mother now.
Right.
Which Ed was fine with that. So they both still lived at home with Augusta. They worked as handymen mainly. And Ed also frequently babysat for neighbors. Ooh, which he actually, I know, random. I think it's a little weird to have a man in his mid-30s to babysit for you, but who am I guess. But he really liked doing it. He liked kids because I think that he could relate to them better than adults.
Probably.
But
he wasn't socialized well as a child.
No.
And so therefore.
Yeah, and again, like he liked doing it. And as far as everybody thought that he was they were considered reliable and honest by residents of the community. It's a small community. Like kind of I think it's one of those things where like everybody knows everyone. And how they described Ed was he was nice. He was kind of simple, a little odd, but harmless. During this time, Henry started dating a divorced single mom, and he had plans to move in with her, which, I mean, it's about time. He's almost 40.
Right.
So apparently Henry worried about Ed's like attachment to Augusta because he didn't have quite the same relationship with her. I think Ed was kind of the favorite in her own weird way.
Yeah.
So I guess he would bring this up to Ed and he would say like some colorful things about her. I don't exactly know what he would say, but Ed was always like hurt and shocked every time. So May 16th, 1944, Henry and Ed were burning, it said marsh vegetation, one place where I read it. I think they were just burning some like bush piles, basically. And the fire ended up getting out of hand. So they called authorities. They called 911 and everything, and the fire department came.
They didn't have 911 back then.
That version of 911 page.
They called somebody.
They called someone. And that someone came and stopped the fire. That was the fire department.
It's like the neighbor.
Right? Like, hey, our stuff's on fire. But anyway, so Ed claims that during the commotion, he kind of lost track of where Henry was. So after everything got over, the fire department left, the fire had been extinguished, he ended up reporting his brother missing. So then there was a little bit of a search for Henry. And by that time it was nighttime. They had flashlights and everything, all that good stuff. They ended up finding Henry's body face down. And according to a few sources that I read, that it was kind of like Ed kind of led them straight to Henry's body. It was like, oh, my brother. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was evident that he had been dead for hours, and their immediate thought was that it was like heart failure or something of that nature, because they didn't see any burns on him. Because they were like, oh, maybe he got torched.
But he was found on the property. He was found on the property, though, right?
It was somewhere on the property. Of course, it's 155 acres. So
yeah, somewhere.
That's a search party right there. So he was somewhere on the property. I don't know where, unfortunately, but they did find him. He was dead. And it was later reported that they found bruises on Henry's head. The police, I misspelled police and I put policed.
Good.
When I type really fast, I sometimes later in my notes, I type the word dog, but I'm typing fast, so I typed dag.
Do you know spell check?
On this one, it's literally just a WordPad document on this little laptop, because I don't have Microsoft Word on here, so it's literally a WordPad, and I'm like dag.
Dag.
So, the police dismissed the possibility of foul play, and the county coroner later officially, I'm having a hard time with that word, officially listed asphyxiation as the cause of death.
But they ruled it out as foul play?
They did.
But asphyxiation was the cause of death?
Uh-huh.
By what?
Who knows?
I mean, there's...
So, so I just poked myself in the eye. So, it said authorities accepted the accident, that it was kind of like an accident. I don't know how he asphyxiated accidentally, but who knows? But they accepted the accident theory. So no official investigation was conducted, and an autopsy was not performed. So one of the reasons why I heard that they did that was it was kind of, oh, this family's been through enough. So yeah, and I was like, I think that's a shitty reason.
Yeah.
But who am I? So this was kind of theorized to be Ed's possible first murder.
Well, he was bad mouthing mommy.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I have it on good authority that he did, but they kind of,
I want to know whose authority. I need names.
Mine.
Payton was actually on the property at the time.
I lived in Wisconsin in the 50s.
She's a time traveler.
Come on. Yeah.
I am.
She's lived a good long life.
Right. Oh no, this was in 44. I lived in Wisconsin in 1944. So shortly after Henry's death, it was just Augusta and Ed, which I think he probably preferred it to be.
I mean, he could have just let his brother move out.
That too, but
if he did it,
who am I?
I mean, that's what I let you do.
You moved out first. I let you move out.
Oh, right. I'm the oldest. Oh, shit.
But shortly after Henry's death, Augusta suffered a stroke, which kind of deteriorated her health. I read that it left her paralyzed.
Well,
I don't know how paralyzed, or if it was all over, or if it was only like a certain part of her body. I'm not sure.
Well, it's not. I mean, that's not normally your whole body leave you paralyzed after a stroke.
No.
A stroke only affects one side typically.
Yeah, but I couldn't really find anywhere of what it all affected. I just read it was a paralyzing stroke, and I was like, okay, what is paralyzed now? But I couldn't find that. So after that happened, Ed completely devoted himself to taking care of her.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Yeah. So Ed later told a story from this time period. This is fucked. This is where I wrote dag. So Ed later told a story from this time period after Henry died, when it was just him and his mom. He and his mother went to this man nearby to buy straw. His name was like Smith or something like that. It really doesn't matter. But according to Ed, Augusta watched the man start beating a dog pretty badly. A woman inside the house came outside and started like yelling at him to stop, and the man ended up beating the dog to death.
Oh my gosh.
Why?
People are awful. People are shitbags. There we go. That's like our tagline.
People are shitbags.
So Augusta was very upset about this.
As you would be.
Not about the dead dog.
Oh.
She was disgusted by the presence of the woman.
What?
She said the woman wasn't married to Smith or whatever, and she had no business being there, and kept calling her Smith's harlot.
Oh my god.
I know. I was like, really?
She's like Angela on steroids. What the hell?
Wow.
Angela?
From The Office.
Kind of, yeah.
Not the correlation that I would have went with, but I get it now.
The bad Angela. The really bad Angela.
Good
so
Lord.
Yeah. I'm like, really?
What a piece of work.
So Augusta ended up having a second stroke, which very rapidly deteriorated her health, and she ended up passing away on December 29th, 1945. She was 67.
Wow. So honestly, Ed lost his dad, his brother, and his mother in a very quick amount of time, really.
Yeah, because he lost mom in 45, Henry in 44, and then dad on 40. So within 5 years, he lost his entire family.
That he's been living with his entire life. He's in his 30s. So
Ed was absolutely devastated by her death. Author Harold Schechter, I think. Sorry, Harold. He's a biographer, I think, that did a lot of like Ed Gein books and stuff like that. In his own words, he said he had, quote, lost his only friend and one true love, and he was absolutely alone in the world.
Well, yeah.
Which is true. He did. Like, his mother was his only friend and the only woman that he ever loved.
That's a little sus.
Yeah. Gross.
Excuse me while I gag.
Yeah. So, let me see. And it was also said that at her funeral, he kind of, instead of handling it like an adult, because I think in his head he really wasn't much of an adult.
No.
But they said that at the funeral he was acting like a young child that had lost a parent. He was kind of like hysterical and beside himself, which that doesn't really surprise me all that much. But he was able to hold on to the farm and earned money from odd jobs, kind of kept doing what he and Henry used to do after their father had passed. He ended up boarding up the rooms used by his mother. This included the upstairs, where all the bedrooms were, the downstairs parlor, and the living room. And he left them untouched. They were like kind of in pristine condition. And I'll get back to that when we talk about the crime scene, technically.
That's a odd reaction there.
Well, she was his entire world. Ugh. And yeah, gross. But while he basically boarded up all this stuff, the rest of the house, I'll get to that in a second. While the rest of the house became squalid, it was absolutely disgusting. Later, when the investigators walked in the house, they were like, it was almost like, because I've seen pictures of it, it looks almost abandoned. Mm. And I don't believe that they had electricity.
Oh.
Yes. So, and to be honest, I don't even know if they had running water. I couldn't find that. I'm sure I could if I worked a little bit harder at research, but I didn't. So
that's like you on every podcast. I could have, but I didn't.
Thank you. And then I can't figure out what detail to take out.
Yes.
All of the details are in
because I'm like, I could have looked harder into this, but it's not relevant. And then Paige repeats details. Like, my God. Anyway, so again, the house was absolutely disgusting. Like I said, I've seen pictures. It was fucking gross. He lived in a small room next to the kitchen. So basically he had, like, I have pictures of the farmhouse. Like, it's a big house. And he basically used like a couple rooms in that entire house. Which, I mean, in a way I understand only using a couple rooms. But how he did it was weird and gross. So around this time, after his mother passed, he became very interested in reading pulp magazines and adventure stories, particularly the ones that involved cannibals or Nazi atrocities.
Oh, those are good combinations.
Oh, yeah. So, and I think one of the reasons why he kind of got into the more, like, grosser stuff like that is because his mom was no longer around to tell him not to do it.
Yeah.
So, he received a farm subsidy from the federal government starting in 1951. So, anyone that doesn't know what that was, and I wasn't exactly sure as well, an agricultural subsidy is a government incentive paid to agribusiness, agricultural organizations, and farms to supplement their income, manage the supply of agricultural commodities, and influence the cost and supply of such commodities. So basically, he started getting like a stipend from the government to help him run his farm. I don't know why he started getting that. So
their farm, was it actual farm ground? It's not like a ranch where there's cattle and stuff. It's an actual farm.
Yeah.
And they actually farmed it.
I don't think it was like the typical farm that you think of. Like when we think of farm, we think of like corn and beans and wheat and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I think what they mainly did was like hay and stuff like that. I couldn't really find anything that specified what they did. So I really don't know.
Yeah, so then why would they get the help from, well, why would he rather get the help from the government? The only
thing that I could really think of is maybe he applied for it or something. I'm not exactly how I should have asked Daddy.
Honestly.
Even though he's not a farmer, he does play one on TV. So
right. And he would have loved to talk farming with you.
I could literally call him right now.
And after this, he's probably gonna be like, oh, why didn't you call me?
I know, he's gonna be like, my kids are stupid.
I thought I taught them better.
Right. So ask him in the next episode. I'll correct myself when he tells me how stupid I am. So, like I said, maybe he applied for it. I'm not sure, because now he's the only one working the farm. Yeah, and it's not like he had any people employed under him.
Right.
So maybe that's why. So he occasionally worked for the local municipal road crew and crop threshing crews in the area. I also had to look up what that was, because I'm like, wait, what the hell is that? Threshing is the process of loosening the edible part of grain from the straw where it's attached.
All right.
It is the step after reaping. I didn't know that.
All right.
I didn't know there was I didn't know that every step of the process had a name. I was unaware of that fact. So I was like,
again, our father is going to be like,
yeah, but he doesn't use those terms. So if he gives me shit for that, I'm going to be like, listen here.
But he's probably going to be like, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, probably.
I know what that was.
He's going to make me feel like a fool. So between 1946 and 56, he ended up selling 80 acres of his property, which is some of the property that Henry owned.
Interesting.
So I don't know why. Maybe he needed money. I'm not sure. And during this time, in 1954, a tavern owner from Plainfield went missing. Her name is Mary Hogan. So she went missing, and they kind of had like no leads. Now we're going into the big stuff. So hold on. Take a seat.
Oh no. Take several seats.
Take the table. Take a couple. On the morning of November 16th, 1957, Bernice Warden disappeared. She owned a hardware store in Plainfield. A Plainfield resident reported that the hardware store's truck had been driven out from the rear of the building at around 9:30 a.m. The store was closed all day, but that wasn't alarming because it was deer season.
Oh.
So they kind of figured that it was closed because of that. So it didn't really ring any big alarms. So Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden, yes, relation, Bernice's son, entered the store around 5 p.m. to find the cash register open and bloodstains on the floor.
Ew.
So Frank Warden told investigators, because I think he had done some searches and stuff of that nature, he told investigators that Ed Gein had been in the store the evening before his mother's disappearance, checking the price of antifreeze. He returned the next morning to buy a gallon of antifreeze. He found a sales slip for a gallon of antifreeze, and it was the last receipt written by Bernice the morning she disappeared. So, of course, they put that together real quick, and they found Ed at a grocery store and arrested him.
Written receipt.
Right. Oh my God, I misspelled so much shit trying to type quickly. I put the Washara, I think that's how you pronounce it. They arrested him, and then the Washara, I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not quite sure, County Sheriff's Department searched the Gein farm. So that gave them enough probable cause to get a warrant to search his property. And I also misspelled search, typing quickly. I literally spelt it certed. So it took me a second to be like, what the hell did I write? Okay. So one of the deputies went out to a wood shed on the Gein property. I think they actually searched like the sheds. I'm not quite sure how many he had on the property, but I think they searched those first before entering the home. So there was no electricity out there, of course. So it was pitch black, and all he had was his flashlight. So he's like,
this would be an awful scene to
creepy.
Come onto with a flashlight.
Oh, get ready. It's real bad.
Oh
no. Adela, hold on.
Oh no.
So all he had was his flashlight, so he was looking around, didn't really see much, and then he felt something bump against his shoulder. So he turned and shone his flashlight on Bernice's body. She had been decapitated, and her body was hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at her ankles and ropes around her wrist. And her torso was dressed out like a deer.
What?
So what that means for non-hunters. So after you go hunting and you kill an animal, what you have to do, basically, if you want to eat the animal, is you have to get the internal organs out in like a quick fashion in order to keep the meat good and not have any bacteria
and
grow.
blood.
So what you do is you literally gut them. So Bernice was gutted from her chest all the way down to like her area. And I think her organs were out. I didn't find if they were or not, but she was hung like a deer. So she was shot with a .22 caliber rifle.
And why is it always a .22?
I don't know. Why is that everyone's like gun of choice to be a murdering fuck with?
It's always a .22. How many?
This one is a rifle though.
Well,
not a pistol, so slightly different.
.22 caliber.
It's still 22.
True, yeah. So, but thankfully, all the mutilation happened to her body was post-mortem. Thankfully.
Thank goodness. Honestly, that's awful to say, but thank goodness, because that would be horrible to endure if you were alive.
Mm-hmm. So then they entered the home. And it was one person, I think he was a reporter or something of that nature. I don't remember what he was, but the words that he used were, it was in a state of imaginable squalor. Ugh. And like I said, it was absolutely filthy. It was disgusting. One officer, I think there was a bunch of people there, obviously, but one officer came upon a brown paper bag. And he saw some, I think he saw human hair kind of protruding out of the bag a little bit. Or maybe he didn't see it until he picked it up. I'm not quite sure exactly what the events were. But he later said that he like didn't know what possessed him to do it, but he like needed to see what was in the bag.
Oh, you never need to see what's in the bag.
No, you don't.
You don't.
So you put it in another bag that says evidence, and then you just continue along your day. It will
always change you forever.
Right. And this case did change Wisconsin. So
yeah.
Until Jeffrey Dahmer. But yeah. So he says he doesn't know what possessed him to do it, but he reached in the bag.
What?
And pulled out the face of Mary Hogan, the woman that went missing in 1954.
Oh, that poor man.
Yes.
Oh.
So I have a list of about like 20 different things. I'm just going to go through them. I have a list of about 20 different things that the authorities found. Get ready.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's just gonna keep getting better.
Oh yeah. All right. Whole human bones and fragments.
Okay.
A waste basket made of human skin.
Mm.
Human skin covering several chair seats. So like he reupholstered a few chairs.
With human skin.
Uh-huh. Skulls on his bedposts. Now, I don't hate that, but if they're real human skulls, that's really fucked.
Yeah.
Female skulls, some with tops sawn off. Bowls made of human skulls, which is what he did when he sawed off the top of the skull. A corset made from a female torso, skinned from the shoulders to the waist.
What?
Leggings made from human leg skin.
I mean, what better to make leggings with than legs?
Obviously.
Oh, God.
So, masks made from the skin of female heads. He literally just had faces everywhere. So,
like Krieger.
Yeah. So, From Archer.
From Archer.
Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag. Obviously, that poor officer. Mary Hogan's skull in a box. Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack. Because remember, like I said, she was decapitated and they found her head in the house. Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Ed's pot-bellied stove.
Oh.
9 different vulvas in a shoebox. And if someone doesn't know what a vulva is, just look it up.
Oh my gosh.
They're vaginas.
What a collection.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
I'm not even done.
He probably didn't go on many dates.
Nope, but I'm not done.
Oh.
A young girl's... I think I misspelled that. I wrote dress, but I don't think that's correct. A young girl something. I don't really remember what I wrote. And the vulvas of 2 females judged to have been about 15 years old.
Oh my gosh.
A belt made from human nipples.
What?
Yep. I've seen pictures of that too. It's pretty fucking gnarly. I don't have a picture of it though. But I think I have seen pictures of it.
I mean, I'm picturing it myself.
I could be making things up in my head. I don't know. So along with the belt of nipples, 4 noses, a pair of lips on a window shade drawstring.
Not the decoration that I would choose.
No. A lampshade made from the skin of a human face.
Oh, I've seen that.
And fingernails from female fingers. So I don't know if they were clipped fingernails or if they were the whole fingernail. Didn't specify.
The fingernails gross me out. I know.
I love how that's what gets you.
Well, I was gonna say
like ew, fingernails.
Like the nipple belt and all of that, and I'm like, ew, fingernails. That's disgusting.
So these artifacts, they were all photographed at the state crime lab, and then in quotes, and I don't exactly know what this means, but it says decently disposed of. They confronted him in his jail cell because before this, he wasn't really talking, because I think they interviewed him and he wasn't really saying much. So they confronted him in his jail cell with the discovery of Bernice, and he was willing to cooperate as long as they gave him a slice of apple pie with a slice of cheddar cheese on top.
Ew.
Which is disgusting.
What?
I don't know.
Again, well, I mean, he did that, and we're like, cheese on apple pie? Disgusting.
I know.
I'm appalled.
Right, we're more offended by the pie. Oh,
how dare you?
How dare you disgrace pie? So he ate it, and then he started talking. So Ed told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he made as many as 40 nightly visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume, what the hell am I saying? Exhume recently buried bodies. And he claimed that he was in a daze-like state, which is he's bullshit, but whatever. He claimed, spit on my computer, he claimed that about 30 of those visits he came out of the daze, finger quotes, while in the cemetery and left the grave in good order and returned home empty-handed. No. He had a lot of human paraphernalia in his house. I very highly doubt that.
I was gonna say that's a lot of stuff to come back empty-handed that many times.
Yes. So
people only have 2 nipples.
Right. And I think to me this seems like a kid that got backed into the corner and he's trying to lie to give the adults an excuse as to why he did it.
And to lessen his sentence,
to lessen
trouble time.
the punishment,
the trouble time.
Good God. Jesus, Paige.
I don't know.
On the other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought looked like his mother took the bodies home where he tanned their skins. I put for his arts and crafts, which is really crude, but I read like, oh, he did this for his paraphernalia, but
I mean, that's
both
what it was
work.
To him.
Yeah, both work. So he admitting to stealing from 9 graves from local cemeteries and led investigators to their locations. Again, that's bullshit. He definitely robbed more graves, but who am I?
I keep going back to the nipple belt. People only have 2 nipples. You can't make a belt out of just...
I mean, here's the thing.
I mean, how long was the belt?
That's the thing.
That's another thing. Because, I mean, if it's 9 graves, then you've got 18 nipples at least.
Yeah, but depends on how big they are, too. I really hate that I'm fixating on this, but that's my reasoning. Like, that you can... It's not only 9 graves that you...
No, it's not.
No.
It's not.
So that's why I'm fixating on the nipple belt.
Yeah, it's the fact of the matter is that it's not. And again, like I said, it's like a child that has been backed in the corner being like, you did a bad thing. And now he's trying to, you know. So Alan Wilimowski, I'm so sorry, sure. Alan, of the State Crime Lab participated in opening 3 test graves that Ed identified. He had robbed the graves right after funerals where the graves were not like completed. Like the ground wasn't set or anything. Mm-hmm. The test graves were exhumed because the authorities weren't sure if Ed was capable of single-handedly digging up a grave during a single evening, which is why they did like the 3 like test graves, quote unquote.
Gotcha.
So one had a crowbar, or 2 of the exhumed graves were found empty. One had a crowbar in the place of the body, and the third, most of the body was gone, but he returned a few rings and some body parts to that grave, and that corroborated his confession.
Huh.
So I don't know why he returned body parts.
He didn't want them.
Probably not. He was like, you know what, this isn't good for my collection, so this is going back.
They didn't really match what he was going for?
Maybe. I don't know. Soon after his mother's death, Ed began to create a woman suit. A woman suit. So that he could, quote, become his mother to literally crawl into her skin.
Oh,
end
my
quote.
God. What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's, hey, Norman Bates.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they asked him if he had sex with the bodies that he dug up. He denied it, saying they smelled too bad.
So I'm just gonna decorate my entire home with it.
Right. So I'm not sure if he would have, if they smelled better. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. He probably regards sex like a child does. Probably. So it could be one of those things like, oh, no, I can't do that. You know what I mean?
Maybe. I don't really know. So, like I said, he denied having sex with bodies. They're also, I don't really have this in my notes, but one of the things that people have talked about over the years is, did he or did he not eat parts of Mary and Bernice? I don't know. And I think one of the reasons why that was kind of suggested is because they found some of Bernice's organs by his stove.
But I mean, you said you found the heart, right?
Yeah, they found her heart by his stove. So again, like I'm not really sure if he did or not.
Gosh.
I don't know. So, and we can only theorize now because unfortunately there's no like direct evidence to suggest that. It's just,
and he didn't confess that. So.
I don't believe so. No.
He's out here eating pie with cheese. So I'm pretty sure he would eat that.
Maybe. We don't know. Don't know. So he admitted to shooting Mary Hogan, but claimed he didn't remember the details. So, again, like a child. Like, yeah, but I don't remember.
Right.
So, after this whole thing all came out, of course, like, Plainsfield kind of became like a media circus. And this is like quiet little town that, like, with quiet little people that just want to live their lives and just move on. So it became like a media storm. There were reporters everywhere. It was bananas.
Not something you want your town to be known for.
No.
Nope.
And another fun fact is, of course, the guy that wrote Psycho, he lived in Wisconsin during this time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so
that's
naturally, it's where he got the idea. After everything came out about his mom and his relationship with her, people were like, "Ooh." So during questioning, Washara, again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but Washara County Sheriff Art Schley, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I'm so sorry.
I like that last name.
Schley. Schley.
That makes sense. I like it.
He assaulted Ed during the questioning by banging his head and face into a brick wall.
Oh, shit.
Yes, which as a result of that, it made Gein's initial confession inadmissible.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, but they were obviously able to convict him eventually, but...
Obviously, however, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which, I mean, like, I do feel bad for Art because he ended up dying of heart failure in 1968, and he was very traumatized by this whole case, which, I mean you find body parts in a guy's house, and I get it. So...
You find literal face masks in somebody's house. Yeah, you're gonna be messed up for a minute.
Right. So...
A nipple belt.
Right.
Fucking nipple belt.
So on November 21st, 1957, Ed was arraigned on one count of first-degree murder in Washara County Court, where he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. So he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent, thus being unfit for trial.
Right.
So he was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, and again, I misspelled hospital because I was typing quickly, and I almost didn't know what that said. So it was a maximum security facility in Waupun, Wisconsin. So sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly as well. It now has a different name. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I didn't write it down. And he was later transferred after being convicted to Mendota State Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin. So in 1968, doctors determined Ed was mentally stable to stand trial, and the trial began on November 7th, 1968, and it lasted 1 week.
Was this just for one murder or for both?
One. Okay. And I'll explain why. A psychiatrist testified that Gein had told him that he didn't know if the killing of Bernice Worden was intentional or accidental. Again, like a child. He claimed that while he examined a gun in Bernice's store, that the gun went off and killed her. He said after trying to load a bullet into the rifle, it discharged. He said he didn't aim the rifle at her and didn't remember anything else after that happened. Like a child. So, at the request of the defense team, Ed's trial was held without a jury. So he had a bench trial.
Oh.
And the judge was Judge Robert H. Golmar presiding. Ed was found guilty by Golmar on November 14th, 1968, which I don't see how he couldn't be found not guilty.
Right.
Or how he could be found not guilty. Did I say that right? It doesn't matter. So there was a second trial. Yeah. So there was a second trial that dealt with his sanity. And after testimonies from doctors for the prosecution and defense, Golmar ruled him not guilty by reason of insanity, and ordered him to be committed to the Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. And that's where Ed spent the rest of his life. So
probably for the best.
Even though he admitted to killing Mary Hogan, he was only charged for Bernice Worden because of costs. So it would have been way more expensive to try him, even though that part does piss me off because they had 2 trials for him. So it's like, why couldn't you have tried him for Mary then as well? But supposedly.
So does that technically leave Mary's murder unsolved? Technically, since nobody was convicted of it?
Technically, yeah.
I hate
that. Is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that.
Yeah, so I'm like, well,
I know he's going away. However, give the family some closure.
That's the thing with a lot of serial killers. So this happens with a lot of serial killers, and there has been several where it's been like, oh, they've killed like 10 plus people, but they're only charged for like 1 or 2.
And
why?
A lot of it. So it could be for probably one of a couple reasons. So number one is if they already have if they have it on good authority and like enough evidence to convict like a life sentence on one murder, if they don't have enough evidence for one particular one, sometimes it's thrown out, or costs, or because it's too expensive to have multiple different trials. Like there's one
and if they're in a bunch of different states or counties, you gotta pay to get them from place to place.
That too. I mean, like if it's someone like
Bundy.
Well, not even Bundy, but like Israel Keys too, which we'll talk about.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about both of them. But another good one is, it's a different circumstance, but another good one is the Wichita Massacre. 2 brothers, we'll get to that as well. 2 brothers killed 5 people, and they had like a ton of different charges. What they should have done is done 2 separate trials for both brothers, but because of costs, they tried them together. Regardless, sometimes they do shortcuts, I guess, like that, like with Ed Gein. But I mean, like, he was charged with murder and grave robbing. I think they added like the 9 counts of grave robbing on his sentence. But I mean, either way, he spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital where he should have been.
Yeah.
So, the Gein house. Ed Gein's house and 195-acre property were appraised at $4,700. And today, that would have been $42,000.
That's it?
That's it. I don't know why. I don't know why it was
everything they
appraised
found
so
in
low.
there.
However, though,
but farmland is appraised differently than a residential property. Technically, farmland is worth more than residential property, but I don't know why it was appraised for such a low price.
Okay, so it was like 150 some acres, correct?
I think so.
He sold 80?
I think that's what you said.
He sold 80, but I don't know how he was able to get almost 200 acres. Maybe he bought some. I don't know. That's just what my research said. Because it was
almost 200 acres?
Yes, because originally it was 155 and now it's 195. So I don't know.
That math doesn't make sense to me.
That's just what I read.
Well, he didn't have electricity or anything, and he was getting money from the government, so.
And if this land was this dirt cheap, then I don't know. Crap. Yeah. So, hey man, I could have looked into it more, but I didn't. So,
piece of shit.
It's fine.
That is just your brand now.
I know, that's what I do. You know. So, his possessions were scheduled to be auctioned on March 30th, 1958, which this was during his time in the mental hospital before his actual trial. This was after he was deemed unable to withstand a trial. Yeah. So that was during this time. So it was rumored that the house and the land might become a tourist attraction, which it would have been.
Oh, absolutely.
However, early morning, March 20th, the house burned to the ground. I believe I've seen pictures of it, because like before that happened, the time in which this was all going on, like people would literally go and like trespass on the property and like try and get in the house, peepers, because of what happened.
Well, and course. Yeah, people's morbid curiosity.
Of course. And the auction of his possessions, there was a ton of people there, like a crazy amount of people.
To see the nipple belt.
They were, but all of the grim stuff had been confiscated by police. That was all evidence, obviously. So nothing super weird was there. Oh, I forgot to mention. So when they did investigate the house, when they went to the places where Ed had boarded up, one of the rooms in the house that they talked about was Augusta's room. And it looked like it hadn't been touched since the day that he boarded it up, which it probably didn't. It was like his little shrine to his mom. Mm-hmm. Everything was still in great condition, like more livable condition than the place where he was living in the house.
Yeah.
Everything had like a layer of dust on it, obviously, because it hadn't been touched in like
years,
almost 20 years. Because when he got found, he was 51.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, like, older than I thought he was. So, the house got burned to a crisp. Like, there was nothing left of it.
Was this before it was sold?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Because they sold his...
sold the things first?
Well, I mean, my notes say that it was scheduled to be auctioned on March 30th, and then early morning March 20th, the house burned down to the ground. But I think there had to have been there was an auction. There had to have been. I've literally seen pictures. This I know is not just in my head. I've seen pictures of people at the property. It may have been like when they were appraising. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But who knows? So this was actually kind of interesting. So the hospital staff where Ed was told him about it.
Oh.
They kind of like, well, they delivered the news to him like as gingerly as you could.
Yeah, but if it was already going to be auctioned, he was no longer going to have it. I mean, why even tell him?
They told him, and he just shrugged, and all he said was, just as well.
Oh, I don't like that.
Well, I mean, he knew what was in it.
Yeah, but that makes
at least you would think he would care, though.
That makes me uneasy.
He probably knew that he was going to spend the rest of his life behind bars or in a hospital. So,
yeah, but still. I mean, if I would have understood a psychotic break of some sort or a tantrum or something like that I would have expected. But that calm little, that's all right.
Like it was kind of like a shrug, just as well. Like he was real calm about it. Yeah.
Makes me uneasy.
So, because of the fire, a fire marshal did investigate. This is another thing that was like, oh yeah. Like the thing about Henry's death where I was like, really? You didn't even do an autopsy, really? So the fire marshal, and I'm not trying to talk shit on anybody. I'm glad things kind of turned out the way they should have, but the one with Henry still kind of irks me. Where I'm like, really? You didn't do an autopsy of all, like, he was 40 years old.
And asphyxiated, apparently.
Finger quotes. So the fire marshal didn't kind of investigate the house fire. There was said to be like a group of people like 75 feet away from the house that was like burning some stuff from the house that were like tasked, however you pronounced it. Tasks to burn trash.
A stroke?
Maybe.
Ordered. They were ordered.
There we go. They were ordered. They were given the task of burning some trash from the home. And like the fire marshal was just kind of like, well, maybe that's what happened. Shrug. And it was thought that it was most likely arson, but it was never officially determined. So I can next to guarantee that someone burned down that fucking house. But anyway.
Yeah.
So Ed's 1949 Ford Sedan, which he used to haul bodies back and forth from the graveyards.
Bodies.
Shut up. was sold at a public auction for $760, which again today would be $6,700.
Wow.
It was sold to a carnival sideshow operator by the name of Bunny Gibbons. I don't know. And anyone who wanted to see it was charged 25 cents admission.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So
they probably displayed a body in it too.
Made of hay or something.
Probably.
A scarecrow.
Yeah. They probably did something. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to do that, do it up.
Right. And I mean, let's face
it.
This was in 58 when it was auctioned off, and things were much more offensive back then, so I'm sure there were some very untasteful things at that sideshow.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. So moving on. So Ed died at the Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure. He ended up getting lung cancer on July 26, 1984 at the age of 77. So over the years, people would like chip away pieces of his tombstone because he got a tombstone. But anyone who would want to see his tombstone would chip away pieces of it for like a souvenir.
Okay.
Which I think is really weird.
This goes back to me saying I don't like it when people fuck up a grave because people are shitbags.
Disrespectfully. No, I understand that this is Ed Gein. So
and he was also a shitbag who desecrated graves.
He wasn't very respectful of the dead either. However, that doesn't mean that it's good to disrespect his grave. But who am I? Is
there any of it left?
Oh, I'll let you know. So eventually it was like his headstone, his tombstone, his headstone. It was stolen in 2000. It was eventually recovered in June of 2001 somewhere near Seattle. And then it was placed in storage at the Wichita County Sheriff's Department. So his gravesite is now unmarked because people kept fucking with his headstone. His gravesite is now unmarked, but he is buried next to his family.
Oh my God. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you gotta have some big machinery of some sort to move a fucking headstone, regardless of whether it had been chipped away or not, especially depending on how big it is. I mean, if it's your stereotypical rounded or square headstone.
It's not huge.
That's huge. Even if it's a stone on the ground, even if it's just one of those.
Let me look it up. So
it has to be super heavy at least.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, it's literally like however many pounds of just rock, basically. Yeah. Now that I have Ed Gein's tombstone up, this is a picture of his headstone. Tombstone headstone. I don't know why I can't get my words straight. So as you can see, people have chipped away a lot.
Jeez. And yeah.
I don't get why would why would they do that? Like it's not like you could tell it's from his.
It's still a souvenir.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah. And it is pretty big. So I mean that's not light.
No. So again, you can see how poorly it. Alrighty. So now for the grim stuff. If you don't want to look, get off.
Now's the time to leave.
Alrighty, so
I leave the chat.
But not you, Adela, but we'll be sharing it on Facebook too. So those of you that are not watching on YouTube, we'll put these on Facebook.
Yes. So this is a chair. I'm pretty sure that this was from him. I tried really hard to find pictures of the grim stuff. And I was having a hard time. I definitely found the one that me and Paige have both seen. But here's a chair.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. He had several pieces of furniture upholstered like that.
Gosh.
Yeah. And again, they were all photographed, but unfortunately, I think most of them are either still in evidence and won't be released, because there's some stuff in investigations that they will not release to the public.
Oh, sure.
So I think that's one of those things where they will never release those. All right.
Don't like that.
Next picture.
How does the skin not go bad? That's what I want to know.
Well, like with taxidermy.
Like with any taxidermy or even fur coats, is you have to keep. I'm not quite sure of how the process is, but if you don't take care of it properly, the pelt will dry out.
Yeah. It's a whole process you have to go through for taxidermy, obviously.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. This is the most famous.
Here's the lamp.
That's the lamp. Nessie, he didn't do a great job on that one.
No.
Yeah, that's a face.
I actually think there's two on here because
that
looks one over here.
It's the same one, no?
No, maybe not, because that's only
because this is a nose. This is a nose and a right eye.
As I'm pointing to my screen to show you guys, no, see this one.
Yeah.
So that's just like a right eye and a nose. The other one, both eye sockets at least are there.
So I think like in this picture, I think the other face is like somewhere like back here.
The amount of patience it would take though too to get the face off that well is beyond.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It's just, that is a messed up individual.
Yup. As from those pictures that you can see, obviously, Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs was inspired by Ed Gein, because he was making a lady suit.
Yeah.
Just like Ed was.
Did he ever finish it?
Which, Buffalo Bill or Ed Gein?
No, Gein.
I don't think so. So, that's the story of Ed Gein.
He's a doozy.
Yeah, that is our first big guy, I guess. That's one of our first
well-known.
Yeah, well-known. And I thought,
and he's categorized as a serial killer in a lot of stuff, but he really isn't. Well, I mean, yes,
technically he is.
He killed two people.
Well, that's another thing is when I first, of course, I've always known who Ed Gein was, but until I really started looking into him, which wasn't just now because I've known about this for quite some time, but until I started looking into him, I thought that he murdered a ton of people, and that's where he got all the body parts. But no, right. I mean, as far as we know, you assume unless you look at the investigative report and actually do the research, especially his name, Butcher of Plainfield, his nickname, that definitely suggests that he's killed a lot more people. But again, that we know of, he only admitted to killing Mary Hogan and Bernice Warden, but
the brother,
well, he never admitted to killing him.
He never admitted.
But we're all thinking it.
Well,
true.
It was an accident.
And no autopsy was ever
Performed.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Words are hard.
Words are real hard. Last time it was you. Now it's me. I've caught it.
So I'm thinking though, the whole nickname, the Butcher of Plainfield, that makes more sense now to me personally. This is just how my brain works. Because what are butchers? They cut up dead animals. What did he do? He cut up dead people.
So that was the story of Ed Gein. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Adela, so much for coming.
Thank you.
I didn't really say much, but thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. I'm sorry we gave you nightmares. Sorry in advance.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sleep over there with you today.
That's fine. You are more than welcome. Alrighty, so if you'd like to stay updated with the podcast, we do have a couple social medias. We are on Facebook at
2K Away,
and we are on Instagram at 2K Away Podcast. We also do have a YouTube channel, and it is at 2K Away Podcast. If you'd like to support us, again, as of right now, we don't have a Patreon, but I think I'm probably going to end up making one. Let me rephrase that. I did make one. It's just not live.
But we want to keep doing this. We have a ton of fun doing this. So I mean, we would love to continue and upgrade our stuff. Payton is like mad at me with my setup, so I got to like make it better.
Paige is technologically inept, so I need to give her lessons. Just about technology in general.
It's fine.
Here, Paige, this is a computer.
I have a computer at work. I know how to work them.
You also have one in front of you.
Exactly.
So anyway, so with Patreon, it's a website that basically helps us if you'd like to donate some money, essentially. I think there's like tiers where you can, I think as little as like $1 or $2 a month, you can donate to the podcast, and that helps us keep this going. Again, it's not live.
So we're talking about this for
but probably in the next few weeks I'll probably make it live just to give us a little help out, because like I said, we got some big stuff coming in December. Spoiler,
some fun stuff.
We have a photo shoot planned.
Oh,
so excited. I know. And Adela, if you want to come.
Hell yeah.
You can be our camera guy.
Since
that
Billy only has one arm now.
Yeah.
So again, if you'd like to stay updated, and again, I'll keep you updated on the Patreon situation. It'll probably be live within the next few weeks. I'll eventually get my shit together. We'll see.
I don't think you will.
Probably not. I very rarely do have my shit together. It's so rare. So also, if you would like to support us in another way, if you listen to us on Apple Podcast, leave us a review, rate us, review us, tell us how much you love us. If you do.
Shout out to the French listener.
Yes. Shout out to our French listener. Leave us a review.
So consistent.
Yes. But I think that'll be all for today. So we love you all. Thank you for coming on this journey today, and we will see you in the next episode
next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
There we go.